Ultir, that's one bad mother shut your mouth. This episode of Fairy Tail, definitely a lot of ass-kicking action. You got dragons, you got those little mini dragon thingies fighting even the fodder. Overall, they did some good in-canon filler as well. Leaps and bounds better than the last week's episode, where it was just all fan service. This week's episode, definitely, we got some progression. We learned a couple different things. We even learned a little bit more about Igneel. So this episode leaps and bounds above last week, and overall, it was just a very good episode. For starters, very smart thing of Natsu. Flame Dragon, what do? You're a Flame Dragon Slayer. Bam, start eating the motherfucker. And now, when he started saying, oh, whoa, you're reminding me of Igneel, I was thinking to myself, like, how is him biting you reminding you of Igneel? Like, did Igneel used to nibble on you back in the day? But ultimately, it was good to see that we already got progression with getting one of the dragons, at least, to follow Natsu. And it really makes you wonder just how awesome was Igneel, where this dragon could say, oh, you were the son of my friend? Yeah, I'm going to follow you and I'm going to listen to you. Because that must have mean that Igneel not only was a good person, but he was a very, strong and loved leader, at the very least, of his type. Because we find out in this episode that he was the king of all the fire dragons. So we learn a little bit more about Igneel, which is interesting. I wish we would have seen Igneel, but then again, see Igneel, and that's pretty much the end of Fairy Tail, because that's Natsu's goal overall. But ultimately, we got some progression on that aspect with him turning around, and now Future Rogue definitely has his hands cut out for him. Seeing them clash was pretty epic, and overall, again, a lot of action in this episode. I like that it was just focusing more on progressing through the fight against this motherfucker, and I think Rogue is having one hell of a meltdown, because at the end of the day, anybody that has to come to grips with, I become the ultimate douchebag and try to fuck up the world, like, how does this happen? I mean, when he finds out in this episode that he will become Future Rogue ultimately and try to be the king of all dragons and the king of the world and shit, that fucked with his mind, and he's just there like broken and everything, and that's a really interesting reaction to see. I mean, ultimately, I would personally, if I was in that situation, I'd be shocked as fuck, but I would be like, I'm my own man. I control my own destiny. If I don't want to go down that route, I won't go down that route. So to see his reaction, I was kind of like, well, it's an interesting reaction. I personally would have gone about it a little bit differently. And I ain't gonna lie, Sting actually looked pretty fucking cool the way they did Dragon Force in this episode when he was going in. I was like, you're looking pretty cool. I wish they would have focused a little bit more of the in-canon filler on Sting and Cobra and those people fighting the dragons, instead of like having Evergreen and all of those people, fighting all the fodder little machine-looking thingy-majigs, those little dragons or baby dragons, so to speak. Because while it's cool to see some of these people getting screen time, ultimately, I'd rather focus on the big dogs, the big dragons, and Sting and them. Like, I wish we would have got more time with Sting and his Dragon Force or whatnot. Because again, I'm not a fan of Sting, and I think he's crusty, but ultimately, that character design is just sick as fuck. When he goes Dragon Force, I'm like, bro, you looking pretty dope. Still a crybaby bitch, though, just saying. And Ultir, just showing them colors inside of her that is sometimes very dark, because the way she went about in this episode, even after Natsu told her, are we going to go down the same route that he went down? Are we going to make ourselves bad for the sake of the world? No, we should definitely try and do the right thing, and we shouldn't harm Rogue. And she's like, yeah. And then she's going about it the other way. It's like, you can definitely see that some of the dark elements of who she used to be still lingers in her heart. She's still, at the end of the day, on some assassin, crazy ninja type of shit, going after Rogue. And the way the episode ended off on a cliffhanger was pretty fucking awesome. And overall, again, a very good episode this week with a lot of awesome action. We got some progression. We found a couple things out. No fan service this week that is just like, oh shit, should you be watching dragons fighting or should you go fap? So I'm gonna give this one 8 out of 10. Getting the reaction from Rogue, learning about Future Rogue, got a little bit of progression there, which I was interested to see how he would take all of this, finding out that he becomes the ultimate dickwad, and then seeing Ultir's resolve that basically, at the end of the day, we got to do it. As dark as it is, I'm going to kill this motherfucker. Very dark shit. And just, a lot of the different action scenes going on. I feel the anime, while it's giving in-canon filler, it's serving a purpose of, one, of course, staying away from the manga, so that way we can have proper pacing, but also it's doing some interesting stuff, like getting to see Gray going in as well against some of the dragons, getting all the people that didn't really have any focus really in the actual manga as far as fighting or whatnot. It's giving them screen time, and that's really good. So yeah, 8 out of 10, very good episode this week. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. First of all, what do you think about Atlas Flame following Natsu, saying, I was friends with your father? Did they have like some little weird shit going on where they nibbled on each other so he could recognize him? And also your thoughts on Ultir's resolve that she's pretty much about to go in and kill Rogue right now to stop everything. Kind of reminds me of some like Future Trunks type of shit where the timelines is all broken, and it's like, yeah, even if you kill him, that might not necessarily affect the Future Rogue right there. And it's just like, I know you're trying to stop one cancer before it becomes the ultimate cancer, but it's like, You're going about it the wrong way. I mean, then again, she's on some crazy shit, so it is what it is. She's a bad bitch. Just your overall thoughts of the episode. Way better than last week's. But that's all I have for this review. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you liked anything I had to say or enjoyed the video, drop me a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed, if you could do so as well, that'd be awesome. I'm from Neverworld, and as always, people, have an awesome day. Ooh, tear. That's one bad mother shut your mouth. This episode of Fairy Tail, definitely a lot of ass-kicking action. You got dragons, you got those little mini dragon thingies fighting even the fodder. Overall, they did some good in-canon filler as well. Leaps and bounds better than the last week's episode, what was just all fan service. This week's episode, definitely, we got some progression. We learned a couple different things. We even learned a little bit more about Igneel. So this episode leaps and bounds above last week, and overall, it was just a very good episode. For starters, very smart thing of Natsu, Flame Dragon. What do? You're a Flame Dragon Slayer. Bam, start eating the motherfucker. And now, when he started saying, oh, whoa, you're reminding me of Igneel, I was thinking to myself, like, how is him biting you reminding you of Igneel? Like, did Igneel used to nibble on you back in the day? But ultimately, it was good to see that we already got progression with getting one of the dragons at